In the last video we created a drop-down menu that had cascading menus to the side, and we just put in arbitrary strings, location 1 through location 10, and for genre 1 for genre 10. But of course for the actual program what we want to put in here is the values of location from the database and the values of genre from the database, the location table and genre table respectively. And in the unlikely event that you've been following these videos right from the beginning, you'll probably realize that we've already done something like this. If we go back to our main program and double click on the form to go to the form load event, remember there's a whole series of populate lists we have that populate genre and location lists and list boxes and drop down combo boxes and that sort of thing. If we go to the definition of these by right clicking and going on go to definition, you see essentially all we do is clear out the combo box with the items.clear, and then within a try catch block create a string that does a select of everything from the genre table, creates a MySql command based on that string, and then creates a MySql data reader based on execute reader on the command, and then loops through each of these records in turn and gets the MDR square bracket quotation mark names quotation mark square bracket and converts it to string in order to populate the drop down list box with the items.add of that string name. And this is pretty much identical to what we want to do. The only difference is instead of using a combo box items add, we want to use the drop down items add from the menu item. So essentially it's a matter of taking these functions and integrating them with the drop down item code that we created in our test program. Of course, before we do this in our test program, we're going to have to make it so our test program can access the MySql connector /net. And the first thing we need to do for that is click on the references and right click and do add reference, and then go over to the net tab and come down to mysql.data and click OK, and that adds the mysql.data DLL to our assembly, so we can now access that code. And then in the code in the back we need to use using MySql data MySql client, and then on the top of the code we need to add a couple global variables for the MySql command and the MySql connector. And in addition to this, we need a connection string which specifies the server as the local host, the database as DVD base, the user ID of Doug, and the password, which I'm not showing the password. I'm not sure why I'm so paranoid about it, but I think it's generally a good practice not to reveal your passwords. And then we have the MySql connection global object con and the MySql command global object CMD. Actually, I put those in the wrong place. Those need to be globally referenced at the top of the form. And then above the form load we need to put two functions. And these two functions basically integrate the function we were looking at that reference the location and genre table and get the names out of the table one at a time with the MySql data reader and the MDR square bracket quotation mark names quotation mark square bracket. But in this case, what we want to do is create a tool strip item called loc select, just the way we did in the previous code, and pass it the name we get from the database, and then do a drop down items add of that tool strip item. So essentially we're integrating the two codes, the test code from previously where we did the drop down items test code, and the code we already wrote that accesses the two tables, location and genre, and goes to the names. And one thing that's different is we have an order by name clause in these, because previously the controls themselves were sorted, the combo boxes and list boxes, so that sorting was handled by the control. But in this case we're going to have to handle the sorting with the SQL. And now in the form load, we're going to need to replace all the previous test code with code that creates the link to the MySQL connection and does an open on that connection, and then that calls the two routines we just put in to populate the drop down item lists from the database tables, location and genre. So I think we're probably ready to go, everything hooked up. If we compile and run this test program code and drop down the items, now if we look at location, we do indeed have all the locations from the location table in the list. And if we drop down genre, we have all the genres, and there's so many genres, there's arrows at the top and the bottom, so that we could go and take it all the way down to the bottom and get zombie, or we can take it all the way to the top and get action. So essentially we've accomplished the second step in the 3 steps. Where the first step is we want to be able to create a drop down cascading menu at all, since perhaps we initially didn't know how to do that. And the second step is to actually populate it from the database with the real data. And the third step is when we click on this, we want to be able to change the code in our edit list to reflect what we clicked on in the drop down item list that we brought up. So we're going to have to integrate this code with the overcode before we do this third step, and that's what we're going to do in the next video. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a lot, and I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe.